Hi there, and welcome to Reflections with Rhonda Jones. And today we are rejoined by two of our major players. And the first one being my co-host, Monica Livingston. And of course, we missed Kimberly Johnson in our panel. And it's good to have the ladies back. And as always, Ruthie Wyburn. Ruthie was my co-host last week. And
she did a great job.
She thought that she was like, it's a little different now. Knowing Ruthie, I knew everything would be just fine. She got up here and I could have just probably played, I don't know what game, Hearts or something on my phone, and Ruthie could have taken the whole show because Ruthie did a great job. A great job as always. So I'm so glad you're back though, even though Ruthie did a great job. It's good to have full force. You know, to me, there is strength in numbers,
Yep.
And that's what we felt like. We had strength in numbers. Today, we had an Easter egg hunt, and some of the ladies were smart enough to go ahead and get dressed and put their makeup on and look nice and prim and proper beforehand. Yours truly obviously didn't. Put on an old paint shirt, Army Strong shirt, and some jeans, the ones that fit me, some jeans and tennis shoes. And I thought, well, I'll have plenty of time to go change, and it didn't happen. So,
But among the ladies who all are here looking prim and proper, who was out there hiding the eggs? The one in the jeans and the T-shirt. So,
well, y'all were controlling them on the inside. Well,
I don't know how much control we had.
We didn't have much.
We tried.
20 of the neighborhood kids are so ready to run and find eggs. There wasn't much control going on in that room.
Right. These children were fierce about it. I mean, they took it to the extreme, and they wanted their Easter eggs.
Oh, yeah.
And we provided. So here we are. It feels good just to sit and look at each other and hear some quietness.
If y'all, catch us snoring in a minute, you know we're tired.
But that's one thing about this time of year that we love to do, and it is to have the kids have fun with Easter and let them have, if they believe in the Easter Bunny or their parents do, let something happen if they can. Hide some Easter eggs with candy or money in it. And I think that they got what they came for. They learned something about being one way versus another way in Kids Place, and hopefully they'll take that with them through school and home, and it'll resonate with them. And that's what we're all about, giving these little kernels, these little nuggets of knowledge and information, and let them plant seed and then grow up, and maybe one day they'll say, I remember when I went over to the New Covenant group and hid Easter eggs, and now I'm doing it for my family, or I want to help kids do that. So it's always great to pass it forward. So I think that was the gist of that. Maybe tonight when I'm back on the stage, I'll have something else on. I doubt it, but I did decide this too. When you're 50 or getting really close to 50, I'm not so sure you should participate in Easter egg hunts anymore, because
I agree.
Ruthie, you agree. See? Two of us right here, because you just almost lose the enthusiasm. It was there in a way, but yet I remember the old days, 20, 30 years ago, I would have been out there hollering and hooping and throwing the ball with them. And as I get 50, it's just, oh my
You're not
goodness.
there yet.
No, it's months away, but
It's
my
creeping up fast, though.
goodness, it's creeping up fast. You're one to talk.
Yeah, I know. I'm hitting a big one this year, too.
I sent some of the ladies an email. This is a segue into something so tragic. And for those of you who did not get to hear Greg Bray's inspiring honesty last week at 6, I tell you what, I wanted to just like how women just like, I wanted to do that while he was talking about a certain subject, but I kept it just mainly like big crocodile tears flowing out. But he mentioned the fact that his son had gotten into his uncle's blood pressure medication. Well, he had it in a container that you differentiate the days of the week, and they put all pills in there, and each week would have breakfast, lunch, dinner, 3 or 4 categories for each Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So he only could open one set, and out of 4 pills being in there, he had only ingested one of the pills. And by counting, they figured it was a blood pressure pill. And the child, Casey, said to his parents, I ate the candy. Right then and there, a parent would just freak out. So they figured out what type of medicine it was, what milligram. They called poison control, and poison control said get him to the hospital as soon as possible, because that dose for his weight is like 4 times or something like that more than he should take, and it would be fatal. So they got him to the hospital, and they had to observe him for 6 or 8 hours, I'm not sure, and give him liquid charcoal. And Greg said that was the hardest thing, is to get his son just to be still while they just squirted liquid charcoal in his mouth to try to absorb some of that medication. And, as a parent and a grandparent, it touched me. Even if you aren't either one of those, it would touch you. And then he kept saying the word, we were lucky, we were lucky, we were lucky. Most of us would say we were blessed. God intervened and God took care of us. And at first, with this bias that I continually hold sometimes, and I don't want it, but I said, wow, I wish he could say I was blessed. I was blessed. But by the time he got finished, I understood why he said he was lucky. Because he said that every day, I believe, in America, 21,000 children under the age of 5, that means 4 and under, or they haven't reached their 5th birthday, they perish, whatever reason. 21,000. And his child could have been one of those. And he said, if I would have, and people were praying for him, people in his family were praying. But he said, in that moment, I thought to myself, talking about Greg's thinking to himself, it's a slap in the face to the other 21,000 children who didn't survive that day. I think it was a Saturday. That Saturday, who didn't survive. But his son did. What God chose to spare this one, and the other ones, he didn't care enough about to spare. It made you think. And I thought that was a fantastic point. I know, Ruthie, you heard that. What was going through your mind?
Well, I can see people thinking that way, but I prefer to think that the day we're born, we have so many days to live, and when our time is up, our time is up. It doesn't have anything to do with luck or what. When it's time for you to go, my husband used to say, when it's time for me to die, I'm going to die if I have to be hit by a train in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. and he firmly believed, and it didn't have anything to do with whether you were ill or, and it was an accident. When your allotted time was gone, it was gone. And I tend to, that's a much easier way to look at it than to say, well, God chose to take me and not take the person sitting next to me when the train got hit, because that makes God an uncaring God, and that's not what he is. So, he knows the hairs on our head, so he knows how many days we've got to live. And you live each day like it's your last and enjoy it. And that's it.
Yeah, I believe that we are definitely given a certain amount of time, and it has to be so useful here. And that's when a lot of us don't use our times wisely.
Right.
And just saying that, say everybody's in a car and, everybody dies but one. Normally, and I'm by far any type of a psychologist, I just know, like that woman psychology, like that your man really didn't look for his socks because you can see the look. I mean, you just know, or your kid really lied to you, just the way that you just know things as a woman. You really do. Unless your woman you'll never experience it, but you just know things. That's that woman psychology. But you have 5 people in a car and everybody dies but one. There's this thing called survivor guilt. And it's a growing thing, or it's a more prevalent thing. People are saying, you know, I should have died too. I feel guilty for being a lone survivor. Right. They're seeing that when people come back from our campaigns and war from Afghanistan and Iraq. You know, I should have been there. I was with my buddy and he got blown up by the IED. I didn't. There's no reason. Or we changed places on the plane, and, you know, so many different things. And Kimberly, have you ever met anybody with survivor guilt or been through anything like that?
I have not, but I'm familiar with it. I tend to lean towards Sister Ruth's analogy that I'd heard someone say, you have so many heartbeats, and when your last one happens, that's it. And I think that that's reasonable, especially to tell someone who has survivor's guilt. You know, if they're thinking, why did I live and they didn't? It seems like they're equating their worth against someone else's, and coming up feeling like they're not worthy. And that's not the point. If it was their time to die, it was their time to die. And if you're alive, I would encourage them not to spend what time they have left fretting over the fact that they have time left.
Right.
It seems counterproductive.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. That sort of leads me to our next segment, and it's something off of Yahoo. I always want to say Yoo-hoo or Yahoo, but sometimes in the South we call people Yahoos. But I'll clarify and say Yoo-hoo. Hey, what is it? Yahoo? Yoo-hoo?
I always say Yahoo.
Yahoo. I do too. I say it different.
Of course,
Okay.
they go Yahoo.
Yahoo.
Or something like that. Anyways.
Okay, it's on Yahoo, and it aired or printed or was displayed on Wednesday, March the 27th. And this is sort of like that, but with a different twist. Okay. You have a couple, grandparents for the Midwest. They're going to be grandparents for the very first time. And the son and daughter-in-law, they're pregnant, and they live in Seattle. So they want to move now. They're both retired teachers, I believe. They want to move and get closer to the baby. And they want to get there in time for the birth. And I thought that was cool. So they do. They get there 10 days before everything happens. So Dennis and Judith Schulte, they had just arrived 10 days in Seattle from the Midwest. And they were killed when a suspected drunken driver hit all 4 of them. It hit the grandparents, it hit the daughter-in-law, which is the mother to the newborn, their grandson, and she was kind of papoosing it, and they were walking across an intersection, I believe, from, I think it was a apartment that maybe the grandparents had rented, but they were going on a stroll, and a drunken driver mowed all 4 of them down, killed the grandparents, been there 10 days to see the newborn baby. The mother was in critical condition. I'm not sure about the baby. I didn't follow up.
Said both of them, I think, were in critical condition.
Okay. And here's a guy who was 50 years old. Now, I believe he already had charges against him from a thing in December. But he blew almost 3 times the legal limit to be intoxicated for the state of Washington State. Now, he had a suspended license at the time, and according to documents, he didn't have a valid license, and he was in a world of trouble, okay? Now, he says that he did not see the pedestrians because the sun was in his eyes. I'm gonna let that go. That doesn't negate the fact of your alcohol content. But it does say that the mother was a 33-year-old pediatric nurse from Chile, a nurse specialist, and very dedicated to her work. And the grandparents were young grandparents, 66, 68, longtime high school teachers. She taught English and was head of the guidance counselor and he taught math, and they had just moved from Kokomo, India, to witness the birth of their first grandchild. And they did. They got to, which was what they wanted. And I thank God for that. And they were near them for 10 days. And, people make comments, and I tell you, and I know one person said, why call him a suspected drunk driver or the alleged drunk driver when, he's already blown what he did. But in our courtrooms today, unless they are arraigned or brought up on charges, you have to call them suspected or alleged. So that's a court system. And, it seems to work fairly well. The old innocent to proven guilty. And so we're trying to stick with that. But this is a man who mowed down 4 people and killed 2 people that we know of right now. And I'm bringing it all back to the Greg Bray story, because what if they hadn't moved out there? I mean, that was their dream, to move out to see their new grandchild, and they did. Well, they saw him. They saw the birth. They witnessed everything, and they're killed out there. I mean, what is going on? Some people would believe that God orchestrated everything to get them there and to move them into position like a chess match. Some people believe that we are in charge of our own destinies, and that's the way that goes. Anybody have a thought on that? And this is a big philosophical.
I think that there is a lot of times that when tragic things like that happen, things like the shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, and things that we can't wrap our heads around. A lot of people, the first thing they want to do is be angry with God and blame God and say, well, God allowed this to happen. And I hear that, a lot from people that don't necessarily attend church or don't believe in God. And they don't understand. And I think I have a different look on things today than I did at one time. It is never easy to understand why things happen, and had they moved, would they have still been killed some other way, or what have you. But I know that it was probably easier to blame God for tragic things when I had the old mindset of religion, I guess. Mm-hmm. And saw him as someone that dealt with people throughout the Old Testament in very harsh ways and believed that. So, but I don't have that, take on God today. My understanding of him is that he's loving and kind, and, bad things happen. The person who chose to drink and then get behind the wheel, I don't think God put that person behind the wheel. The person made a choice. They do have free will to make bad choices. Our kids make bad choices. They lie to us. They fight. They hit their brother or their sister and things. But that isn't God saying, let this one smack the other one, knock them down, give them a bloody nose. I don't believe that God orchestrates us and that it's like a chess match.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I do know that there was probably a time in my life that I very much thought a lot along those lines.
All right. Anybody else?
Well, we all have choices to make, and sometimes you make a choice and you go through with it, and then years later you look back and you have the idea, God helped me there God gave me the idea to go do this because it helped me to grow. And it's possible that it came from God, but we have choices, and if God told you, I want you to go across the street and plant your garden instead of planting it here, you still have the choice to either plant it here or over there. Even though you've got this idea and maybe God put it there, you don't have to do it just because you have this idea. You choose which idea you're going to follow.
Okay, that's fair enough. Some people may believe the way Ruth does, that God does impress, the old Southern Baptists would say, God impressed upon my heart to do something. and to plant my garden across the street, but I decided to plant it on the rocky ground, and I didn't yield much vegetation. Where over here in the fertile soil, I would have. That's common sense, but
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that he does, but there's a possibility, because we don't know all of this. We don't know just how God does things, not completely anyway. And I'm not sure that he does this, but there's a possibility. But you still have a choice. If you get this idea in your head, it could just be yours. But you still have a choice of which way you want to go. You don't have to go just because you got this brand new idea. You don't have to say, okay, I'm going to go that way. So
yeah, that's fair enough. So I think sometimes we think it's God, and it's really, we've been watching a lot of Discovery Health Channel, and we hear that ginkgo biloba might be better for our memory, and we decide to take some, and all of a sudden our memory is better, and we want to give all praise, honor, and glory to God for my memory, because we've asked people to pray too for my memory, and so you have two different things. And I am not one to believe that God is not interested in the affairs of his people. I do believe that. I believe he's that very intimate with us. And so you're not going to convince me otherwise there. But when it came to those 21,000 children that were going to die that day, and Greg Bray's child was spared, sometimes just dumb luck happens. Sometimes just a set of circumstances converge and work out where you just made it by the skin of your teeth. My mom used to always say that the Lord looks after fools and drunks, and then you'd find a fool or a drunk and they'd be doing just fine, and she'd say, see, I told you. Whatever, just anecdotal.
Yeah, I think
But-
I remember hearing that too.
Yeah.
the reason a drunk survives without very many injuries is because he's so limber that he just folds up and goes anyway, and instead of trying to hold and breaking his bone, he just goes tumbling like a tumbleweed, and
Yeah.
he doesn't realize that all this is happening until it's all over with. So
True.
the mind is slower.
Very true. That's the impetus of it, was that slow mind. Now his limber body might save him in it, but that slow mind is what happened.
Usually it was the cause, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That was the cause and effect. But a lot of people would say, a lot of people said that this person had gotten 2 DUIs in the past 4 months. And so, it seems like this is a repeat of stories you hear all across our country. Is there something that can be done to stymie this surge of repeat offenders? 2 and 4 months. That's somewhere, somebody dropped the ball, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there are laws in place where they're supposed to lose their license, but if they can find keys to a car, I mean, I've known people in the past that have had DUIs and stuff, and they've had to have things installed in their car where they had to blow into it before they could go, and different things. But if you can get keys to somebody else's car, or you have more than one vehicle, I mean, there's always probably ways around it, but I mean, it's, I don't know how to bring about a change in it, but something does need to be done, because all too often you do have someone that gets behind the wheel and they may not be that intoxicated as this gentleman, allegedly was. But,
Suspected.
But, they still can do a lot of damage.
Right.
So.
And then, of course, if it's one of our family members, we'd be up in arms, and I don't know, things cut differently when your family is involved, it seems like. And what we need to be, and that was one of my other points, it was about this marriage equality thing. They were asking students, and I cannot for the life of me remember where, but I'm gonna say it was at some. I don't want to call it a low-level college, but I meant it wasn't a graduate school only or a Ivy League school or wherever. It was a school, and a teacher was asking different students, what does this gay marriage, what do you think? Do you think it's okay? Is it okay to have equal marriage rights? What do you think about the Defense of Marriage Act? Just different questions. And the girl said, well, as long as it doesn't affect me, I don't care one way or the other. And the teacher thought, well, that was a pretty good answer. And then I read it and I thought, well, I don't think that's a pretty good answer, because we all are intertwined and we are interwoven and we affect each other. So you should be very interested in something that would affect a person adversely. If someone that we all knew wanted to get married to their partner and they've been together forever, and they just wanted, federal benefits because of that. And
Well,
what would you say? It doesn't affect me, so I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, the federal benefits and the fact that, we hear these stories, we watch them on TV nowadays and stuff where you have, people that have been partners for life, but they can't marry. And then, one of them gets ill and that person can't, their family sometimes has the, I'd say, audacity, that's my opinion, my 2 cents, to come in and say, okay, well, this person, really has no say. They weren't anything to him and or her, and they were, and the family knows it too, but they're willing to step in and cut off, any kind of, visitation with the person, and, I remember a day when, it's funny, I heard somebody the other day say, it's not Adam and Steve, it's Adam and Eve. And I thought, even though I never remember just making fun of people that were gay or lesbian, bisexual, and all of that, I do remember hearing that and probably even saying that myself. But my mind has changed a lot because, I look at people differently today than I did. And I'm just going to say, like I said a while ago, my 2 cents, through the eyes of the church, because coming up, all my years being in church, I was taught, it's sin and, they're, God's rejected them because they've given over to these,
Reprobate mind.
Yeah, reprobate minds. And, this is in your head even if you don't, go out and, stand on the street corner with a sign, like we see, and we've had on kind of Diathike's page where they've showed what other people have done hatefully, condemning these people. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that, my mind has changed, and I've looked at the fact that, we're all human, and, God's made us all, and we all have issues, whatever it may be. And whether this is something that they are born with or something they choose, I don't know. But I don't think that I have a right myself to tell another person that they can't love who God puts in their heart to love or who they choose to love. And, a lot of people, I hear that being said, well, it doesn't affect me. And I understand what they mean. Well, it doesn't affect me, so I'm not worried, if they want to be with a man or they want to be with a woman and they're a woman. But at the same time, like you said, there's two sides to that. Yeah, don't, if it's not happening in your bed, don't worry about it. But at the same time, it's happening in somebody else's life, and
right.
That other person's being denied those rights. The benefits that they could have federally, the benefits that they could have in sharing their life and, with somebody. And I recently had a cousin who, was raised in the Catholic Church, and he, I guess, knew for quite a while and didn't say anything because he just felt so worried about how his family and everything would feel. And, he came out, and, I think my aunt was hesitant to tell me at first because she might have been worried what I thought. And she knows now that I love my cousin and I love her, and I don't care. Love who you have it in your heart to love. And but you have so many people in your life that want to dictate and say, oh, well, that's wrong. But growing up in church was very much where most of that mindset came from me.
Right. What about you, Kimberly?
Yeah. Don't judge someone else until you've walked a mile in their shoes. You don't know what's in somebody else's heart. And I don't have a right to tell you what you can do and what you can't. You have the right to tell you, but I don't. Because I don't know what's in your mind, I don't know what's in your heart. So just they'll be happy. Love,
Is that the way you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. And for someone to say, I don't care, it doesn't bother me, it doesn't affect me, I think they're being naive, because anytime the government denies someone their rights, you're opening a door for something else to be denied somewhere else.
True.
So everything is going to interact. Like you said, we're all interrelated, not just as people, but as a country. And if we are not going to stand up for equal rights for everyone, who is? We can't all just sit back and say, doesn't bother me, doesn't affect me, I don't want to know about it. That's not going to work.
Right. Now, what if they would have said that about, women's right to vote? Or
Sure.
The abolitionists would have said, you know what, that's not my problem.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
have
comfortable.
slaves, so,
Right.
it doesn't bother me. But whatever the government decides,
Right.
That's
Right.
I heard a statement. They were discussing how the Supreme Court, those 9 judges, are trying to decide if marriage should be between a man and a woman. And this gentleman said they want to go back to what marriage was like 2,000 years ago or longer. And he said, you've got to remember, back in that time, marriage was looked at differently. It was between a man and a woman, but they could have multiple wives. Women were subjugated, they were bought, and they were
Right.
treated like
Paid
chattel.
50
And he
cattle.
said, is that what we want to go back to? And I thought, good for him.
I don't know if any of y'all saw it, but there was it was kind of like an infomercial type thing, not selling a product, but like not a commercial, but I don't remember if I saw it on the regular TV or I saw it on the computer, like watching a show on my computer and
Just
saw
make it up. They won't know.
But basically, it had a man and a woman, and the woman was reading the paper, or the guy was, one or the other, and they're having this conversation. And one of them was like, "Oh my God, they're going to allow gays to marry," and they were really dramatizing that. Oh my life, our marriage, what's going to happen now? And they're hugging each other, and they're in tears, and this little girl walks up, what's going to happen, Mommy and Daddy? Are we going to be okay? And they're like, we just don't know. And it was like really,
Oh, no.
The argument that's out there is that gays and lesbians and stuff being able to be, married, and the marriage equality is going to destroy, and it's going to harm the marriages that are already established between a man and a woman. And so
How?
this was very much showing,
Exactly.
like, how is this going to affect it, I mean,
yeah, well, how did it
mean-
show it affected it? Did it ever come to a
No, it
conclusion?
was basically, it was like a, I guess a parody of,
Yeah.
Hey, look, this is really tragic, huh? I mean, it's all in your head type thing, so.
Well, exactly. I mean, honestly, your marriage doesn't affect my marriage. In a way, we're
Well,
related.
mine might, because
Exactly. Well, you know what I'm saying. But today I draw straws. But I've got kind of a reverse discrimination a little bit, because I do think that the marriages between same sexes, I don't see how it could affect my marriage or anybody else's marriage, and maybe I haven't thought it through, and later on in a month from now I'll come back and say, hey, I've just figured out that it might affect it this way, and I'm concerned, or who cares, I don't know, because there's not a lot of love in this world, if you be honest. People don't find people to hook up with, and I meant to join together and live a life out together, and so if you can find, if it's a blue-eyed purple people eater, if that's somebody that would love one of our sons, I would have to embrace it and say, that's fine. If they're in love, but I know people are worried that we'll get into this. It's sort of like NAMBLA, like the North American Man Boy Love Association. It's really gross and against, everything decent. But this is what people think about gay marriage too.
Well, I think they think that it's a slope that's going to lead to that.
Right.
Here, okay, we're allowing
animals.
2 men to marry, and the next thing you know, we're going to allow a man and a child, or a woman and a child, and then you're going to allow a man and an animal, and
Right. Well, if the day ever comes to that, we'll, put laws in. But if the majority of people want to say it's okay if 2 consenting adults love each other,
right.
whatever. God is neither, male or female. He's neuter. He's just God, I believe. And so really and truly, we are of him. And so we're different. I mean, obviously some are male or some are female, but do you know what I'm saying? God is,
Right.
He's not so bent on a gender or a
Well, but that's not what mainstream church teaches.
No.
I mean, women, weren't allowed to speak back in the days that Jesus walked the earth, and they were, couldn't ask questions. If they had a question, they had to go home and ask their man, and they were treated like cattle, and they were bought and sold, and they didn't have the rights. I mean, if you were raped, rapist pays and gets away with it, and sure, he has to support you as his wife, but, he raped you. So, it's just, I hate when I hear people use the term biblical marriage or traditional marriage, because, like Ruthie was pointing out, well, let's look at what was around 2,000 years ago.
Right.
Let's look at the marriages that
Polygamy.
we have today between most men and most women out there. Now, not all of them, but you read in the media, you got 72-hour marriages going on, and 72 days, 42 days, I don't know the numbers, but you know what I'm saying. They treat it like, I'll try this pair of shoes on. If it doesn't fit, I'll take it back to the store. And that's, I would rather see 2 women or 2 men that are committed to each other, want to build a life together, whether they have children or not have children, and go on about their life than trying on every pair of shoes that comes around and,
Right.
taking it back when it doesn't fit.
right.
That's my 2 cents again.
Say that. Say that's my 2 coppers.
2 coppers.
My 2 coppers. We talked a little bit last week about John and Meredith going to this marriage retreat and how that they drew pictures of things. The guys were supposed to draw a picture of what their marriage meant to them. And when they first came back, they Skyped us and said, Mom and Dad, we hated it. And we're like, why would... Well, first of all, I was impressed that they went to a marriage retreat to be so young. Usually that's for old people that need some spark, But they went, and so when they came back, why did you hate it? And Meredith said, well, first of all, they said there's no such thing as unconditional love. And she said, I don't believe that. Well, I said, I don't believe that either, honey. And then John said, and we were entered into a contest, and we had to draw what our marriage meant to us. The guys did. And he said, I only came in 3rd place. And his dad said, well, what'd you draw? He said, I drew an eye focused on my wife, Meredith. And we were so just all over ourselves thinking that was marvelous because we've always taught them that. And I said, well, what in the world won first place? And
Go ahead.
somebody drew a penis in a cage that won first place.
Is that not a sad commentary on what people feel about marriage?
Oh,
Penis in a cage.
And there's a lot of people that do. They feel like marriage is just a trap, and I'm stuck in it, and it's nothing to be enjoyed, and it dragging me down, and and so they're the ones that are out there playing around, and got 6 pair of shoes in the closet, basically. So.
And some drew, just balls and chains, and it sounded very sad, very sad.
But, and then again, I say that, but on the other side, I think that at least maybe they're being honest if they feel that way, and maybe being at that retreat, although it doesn't seem like it if that's winning first place,
No.
they'll get some help, but I don't know. If they're teaching there's no unconditional love, it's hard for me to think that they're going to get a lot of help there to where they can get their marriage back on track and having that single life for each other and loving each other through thick and thin and, making a go of it and making a commitment. And, it's that one pair of shoes forever. They're comfortable. They fit. We'll make them work. Put on an extra pair of socks and, dig in there. But sticking with that shoe analogy there, I am. But you know what I'm saying? It's, maybe it's they're rewarding this person being honest, but once again, if there's no unconditional love, and I wasn't there,
Yeah, that's
and I
what
didn't
they
talk to
said.
John and Meredith, but it's hard for me to believe that's going to go full circle to bring them back to a happy marriage.
Well, if you're having problems and you feel like it's that you need to stop and think, well, now what can I do to make it better? Don't say, well, if she would do or if he would do so and so. Stop and think, what can I do to make it better? My mother told me one time, I was complaining about my job, and she said, well, I have something to tell you then. You either leave your job and go someplace else, or you change your attitude. One or the other. That's the only two things you can do. And I thought, she's got a point, So I tried changing my attitude, and I enjoyed the job a little bit better, but I still left it because of outside things that happened that, to me, were not correct. It's something that shouldn't be done to other people. So I went to work someplace else. But I thought that's good advice. Anywhere you are, if you're really unhappy, you either change your attitudes, and if you can't change your attitude, then you go someplace else. That wouldn't work in a marriage, but you need to stop and think, what can I do to make this marriage work? And once you start showing the other person, the one you think is causing all the problem, once you start showing them respect, love, kindness, this kind of stuff, if they are truly in the wrong, it's going to change them. And if they're just rebelling because you're not treating them right, then and when you start doing this, then they're going to start doing it too, and you'll work out your problems.
Hopefully so, if both people can get on the same page and see the other one putting in the effort.
I think so. What if one puts in the effort and the other doesn't? What do you do, Kaylee?
Well,
Kimberly?
I'll tell you what you don't do. You don't go talk to your friends about it, not talk to them.
No, I wouldn't think so.
No, I've been guilty of that, so that's why I'm throwing that in. No, but if you don't feel like something's working, first person you should be talking to is the person you're in a relationship with. And, I can be dense sometimes. Maybe Ricky's doing something special for me and I don't notice. Maybe I need him to point it out. Maybe he's like, I've been doing this for a week and you didn't even say thank you. Maybe you just need to talk and not just, and of course, make the effort too, but keep lines of communication open.
Right.
Very true.
And I want to find these people that went to this retreat and tell them, please, go somewhere else, do something else.
Yeah.
That sounds like a how to end your marriage retreat.
Yeah.
It really does. It really does.
I knew some people that went to a marriage retreat, and one of the things that they were told in this marriage retreat was especially people that are having problems, that the wife writes down what she wants to say. She doesn't say something to the husband. She writes down what she wants to say. She gives it to the husband, and he reads it, and then he writes his answer down, and then she reads it. And that way you're able to get all of your feelings down for them to read, and you don't stop a mid-sentence or you quit. They're talking, and you say, oh, this is what I'm going to say about that, and you don't listen to what else is said. And that's one way to open up and get your communications back on track.
Probably also gives you
that's
time to
problems.
think before you say something you regret, too.
Yeah.
That's
I think
always
that's a
good.
fabulous idea. I'm guilty of, if he's saying something to me and I know right away he's got it really wrong, why should I let him keep on with it? You know what I'm saying? Because this is a waste of my time. But you just going to keep on the wrong thing. Hey, no. First of all, I need to correct you on number one, because number one is wrong. And if you keep going to number two, your whole thing's gone. So that's why I always interrupt. Because if one's wrong, why bore me with two? Did I say bore out loud?
You did.
Okay, I didn't mean bore. I meant why to labor me with number 2 if 1 is not right. That's the kind of person I am. I want to. I like to go from the beginning. Okay, as long as we're agreeing, we're agreeing. Oh, we stopped agreeing. Let's fix this before you go another step further, because we can get really squirrely. But everybody has their own way to do it. What about you and JoJo?
Well, we have our differences too. I mean, we have times where we kind of butt heads. And he, over the years, has worked with me on communicating, because I had kind of got to a point where I didn't say a whole lot and, kind of wouldn't communicate my feelings. And, that's improved. And, it's a learning process. I mean, you're learning each other. You're learning to communicate, hopefully you're learning. Not everybody does. I've seen some that just knock down dragouts. We don't really have the knockdown dragouts. And our fights are few and far between. And I wouldn't even say most of the time they're fights. It's I might snap, or he might. We just one of those things. But the communication. He's in the back.
He's in the back,
listening,
taking it. I hope he's absorbing it like a sponge.
I think so.
When he gets home, he can just squeeze it. And
I'm gonna get a letter tonight. I know. Here's what I had to say.
That's true. Well, we hope you've enjoyed the show today, and next week we're gonna be missing Ruthie.
The 14th.
The 14th.
Yeah, not next week.
See, I'm
but the
thinking
next.
you're going off.
I got 2 weeks before I go on vacation.
Okay.
Are you gonna be back by the 3rd?
I'm going to be gone 2 Sundays.
2 Sundays,
Okay,
but
so
just
she'll be
not.
back by the
Okay,
third.
she'll
Yes,
be
we'll
on
be
2
back.
Sundays. We have a marvelous fill-in for her, and but she'll be with us for 2 Sundays. Her name is Kathy Willems, and it's going to be a treat. But we'll have to get on the dates. And I knew you were going to be gone 2 Sundays, just didn't know exactly which. I did know, I guess, but I got
Yeah,
it
the
wrong.
14th and the 20th.
14th and the 20th. That's it. That's the ticket. All right, folks. Well, I guess we'll see you next time.
Happy
That's
Easter.
it. Yeah, happy Easter. Hope you found a lot of eggs.
A lot of chocolate.
Chocolate. Peeps. Bye.